think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Okay, great. Hello, Queens. This is Coach Ivy here. You guys know I am a life coach specializing in helping divorced women reinvent and reclaim their life through fitness, finances, and femininity. Welcome today to the channel. Today, we're going to talk with our guest here, a personal financial planner. We have Tashwan Worjoloh. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Right. She's together with me today to talk about that. So one of the reasons that I love working with Tosh, and I've worked with her personally, her and her husband, a couple reasons. One, she and her husband are partnered together. So it makes you see how finances can work in partnership, which is just a really beautiful thing. Even though I am currently a single woman, eventually I desire to have that. So you put yourself around people from where you want to be. But the other thing is that she took the sting out of financial planning, her and her husband. I never felt uncomfortable telling the truth about where I was. And that is so important to me with finances, because so many of us don't seek the help that we need, because the truth is we're really super embarrassed about what has transpired. And she made everything I did, wherever I was, good or bad, up or down, sideways, like, okay, this is where you're starting. Welcome. Let's take the journey together. And so I love that. So I wanted to bring her back. She's been here before to talk more about personal finances, specifically budgeting, saving, and debt management, because that is the foundation. You can forget about investing. You can forget about becoming a millionaire. You can forget about running a business. If you can't get these basics right, everything you do is going to be impacted by the decisions you make in this arena. So tell us, Tosh, about you, about what brought you into this business, about why you do this, and why this has been so important to you in your life.
Okay. Well, first, thank you so much for having me, Ivy. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to be back. Hello, everyone. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, if you didn't get to see my introduction the last time, just really quickly, I got into finance. Well, I kind of stumbled on it. I went to school, I got a finance degree, but they teach you how to work in corporate America. And I actually got a job at a lending agency, and they were doing like personal loans. And I saw how a lot of the clients were getting taken advantage of, and they were uneducated on their credit, right? And they didn't have access to their credit. So not only were they uneducated, but they didn't even know how to gain access. And I saw it was a lot of disparaging. There was a lot of challenges in that area. And so I became a big crusader, wanting to educate people in finance. I actually started my own small business trying to educate people, and I ran across my company, Primerica, which is where I met my husband. And so we decided to build something together. And we've been doing this for over 12 years or so. I lose count, but it's been a long time. And so we're really excited about helping families, no matter where you're at in any part of your life, because we've been there personally, we've seen it, and we've experienced it either ourselves or through other people. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for saying that. Sidebar, you just made me realize we may want to have you come back, because credit and lending is a whole other category of discussion, and your credit score. And I just did another training on that someplace else. And I'm telling you, like, people showed up in droves for that, because the credit score is like this mystical thing that nobody.
Yeah.
And so I would like you to demystify that, but that's another conversation today, because you really do need the basics to go on that. So I really want us to talk about the importance of having a plan. So I'm doing top 10 mistakes women who go through divorce make. And one of them is they don't have a plan. They don't have a budget. They don't have a spending plan. They don't have a budget plan. They don't have a savings plan. They don't have a debt management plan. They have no plan. They have no, and you're just winging it. In fact, I talked to someone not too long ago, and I was just asking her how she pays her bills. And she goes, I just make sure there's enough in the account to, you know, pay it when it comes in. Like there is, and I said, do you have a budget? He was like, no, I don't really follow a budget. I just pay it out. So, you know, talk to us a little bit about the value of having a budget, or, you know, I don't like that word, but I like spending plan. Talk to us about the value of having a spending plan or a budget, or something you follow. Why is that so important?
Well, first, I do want to say that I have been divorced before.
Mhm.
So I understand all that goes into the financial breaking apart of investments or house. We owned a house together. The husband I'm married to now, that's my second husband. So being very on top of your budget is extremely important. It's empowering,
Mhm.
and as well as it helps you to better plan. So, jumping into your question of why is having a cash flow plan, Liz, what you
There you
call
go.
it a
I
spending
like that
plan,
better too.
right?
Cash flow. Yeah, I like it.
Right.
It's the flowing in, you know,
That's
what goes
right.
in and out. That's good.
That's right. You got cash flowing in, so let's figure out where it goes, right? So one of the things that's so important about a cash flow plan is it allows you to spend your money on paper or by app before you actually have to do it, right? And you can better manage what is going out of the door. And mostly, what happens is a lot of people are just working to pay their expenses. But what they're doing is they're forgetting the number one and most important asset, which is yourself.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times we don't put ourselves with that pay yourself first in your budget. And if you're just having it in your brain and trying to figure out, okay, well, I just want to make sure there's enough. 9 times out of 10, not only is it not enough
Hmm.
for you to take care of your expenses, but you're not even taking care of yourself
Yes.
in that respect. So it also helps to track your habits
Mhm.
when you write it down. You can plan better. You can tailor your budget to be able to, like, if you have, you know, known expenses that are coming up, or you want to retire, or you want a vacation, or things like that. But those are some of the reasons why having a budget is like super important, or cash flow plan, because I don't even use budget. I use cash flow plan, and I don't say my bills, I say expenses.
Ah, I like that too. Yeah, bills feels constraining and constricting. You know, one of the things I talk about is doing things from the feminine perspective. The feminine likes to, we like to be in the state of pleasure and joy and to enjoy, and we blossom in that space. When we feel constricted, then we start to act out because it's a lot of pressure. There's no joy, there's no love. No one feels joy being constrained. Women feel joy being expressed. You have to think about us as like a flower, as like Mother Nature. Mother Nature is not suppressed. She's not gray and rainy all the time. Like that's not how it works. She's a tempest, she's a tsunami, she's beautiful flowers in the spring and leaves in the fall. Like you could walk outside every day and find something new about Mother Nature. We like to be expressed. Well, you can't be expressed if you're constrained. And so cash flow makes you feel like things come into you, and then how do I express myself? In what way can I express them? Whether it's expenses, whether it's savings, whether it's a college fund, whether it's a new dress, a new pair of shoes, a doctor's visit, a massage, it doesn't matter. I get to use the flow of money to express myself to the highest form, which is so much better than I get to constrain myself with in lack. And I think that's really like a huge thing to come at it from that perspective rather than the perspective of what can't I spend. I That's why I like spending plan and I like the cash flow because it tells me what I can spend. And then to your point, you get to do it on paper so you can see the impact of those choices before you actually execute on those choices. And then you have an opportunity to make different choices aligned with your value or with your highest expression. If your expression is, I need to go back to school and that's a priority, then do you have an education fund for yourself? And I bet you so many women will say, I want to go back to school. They are not saving for education, their own, their kids, nothing. And so I always tell people, what you value, just, or if you don't know, look around your life. Whatever you've spent money on, whatever you've put time into, whatever you've put energy in, those are your values. And if those aren't your values, then you need to really take a step back and look and say, ask yourself, why am I giving time, money, and energy to this thing that I don't even value in the first place?
Right.
I really love that you say that you get to see the impact of it. And I got to tell you, in full transparency, there are times when I'm like, ugh, I had no idea. I had no idea. I have a habit. One of the habits is checking my expenses every day. Like it's on a habit tracker. I must look at my bank account every day.
Mhm.
Because what I found is when I didn't, stuff was happening and I'm like, I had no idea this money is flowing out of the door, expressing itself in ways that I don't really value. Some subscription, some late fee, some charge about something that I had no idea. Even my account was tied to my daughter's account. And I'm like, did you buy an app that does whatever, whatever, or some gaming app? I'm like, you owe me $10. Like, I want my money back. Like, you know what I mean? But before, I never noticed those things. I just get to go, oh, Apple's charging me. It's probably for, my storage. I never looked at even what Apple was charging me for.
Mhm.
Now that I look all the time, I find money that went out that I can claw back that belongs to me, and it makes a huge difference. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you said that. What about your favorite apps or programs? Like, what things make it easy to do this? Because that's the other thing. I know, like, when I get in my mood, I'm like, I don't feel like looking at this money stuff. I don't want to check my bank account. I don't want to do dollars and cents. What tips or tricks do you have to make it easy for you?
Well, I have to say that it really starts with the person.
Mm-hmm.
Know what works best for you. If you're a person that you can work off of an app, there are all kinds of apps, budgeting apps that you can look up. One is really no greater than the other. I mean, you watch out for like fees and things like that. But um, there's those kinds of apps. If you're like that, if you like apps, your bank usually has something like Wells Fargo. They have it where they'll show you your spending habits. USAA has it as well. So that'll help with the tracking, things like that. It could be as simple as Excel spreadsheet. It could be Google Docs. You can use that. So it really depends on the person and what works best for them. It's very difficult to say, hey, use this app. This is so awesome. Like somebody told me, drink water and use this water app. And the water app, I'm not an app person, so I never checked it. I was like, I don't know if I'm drinking. Am I drinking? I gotta log it in.
Right. I hear you.
Yeah, so it just really depends on what works best for for each person and the habits that they know that works best for them. But
Yeah.
the main thing is to start.
I think that the key is make it easy for you. So if you're a pencil and paper kind of girl, like I like journaling, I like putting stuff in a journal, I like writing things out. I find writing gives me mental space to think, like brain dumping it. I have stacks of little pieces of paper and sticky notes. I do go through them and then put them somewhere in an app where they belong. But I'm tactile, so I like that. I have whiteboards. I've even gotten whiteboard wallpaper so I can write on different walls in my house where I think. That works for me. I have an app. I got to be honest, similar to you, I kind of don't go in there as much as I should. It's set up. I keep telling myself, you should go in there and really set it up. I wonder what would be gained by doing that. But I don't really feel it. So what I use is pieces of paper and a spreadsheet, and that usually helps me, get through it. What do you do to make the process easier? Because a lot of people are like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, how does somebody even start with just looking at what they spend and what they should be budgeting, or just getting started. Even if they took out a pen and paper and was like, where would they even start with this?
Right. So one of the things that, like what you said, was just writing down with a pen and piece of paper, because you can post it up. So the apps are nice, especially if you're just that kind of person that's always going to check your app. But to get started, it really is different when you put pen to paper, and then if you post it up, that way it's always in your face. You don't have to go search for it. So I do like pen and paper a lot, especially to get started. One of the things that I would recommend with getting started with your budget is, well, we have a form, but you can get any form online, right? But it's a cash flow sheet, where it gives you all of the categories, right? They have these, like bankrate.com has different things. You can go on Dave Ramsey. Um, uh, Susie Orman has them as well. We provide them. But it's basically, it just gives you categories. You sit down, you write down your income. You want to do it per pay, net, of course. And then you want to just write down everything that you could think of that you pay. So say, for example, if you don't have a spreadsheet, you just write down everything that you can think of that you pay for every month. You want to list housing, you want to list driving expenses, food, every bill that or expense that comes out of your budget. And then you want to take it a step further and think about, what are the miscellaneous items that I spend on? How often do I shop online? Or, a lot of people are doing online more than the store, but, or go to the store. How often do I splurge to eat out? That's a big one, right? And then you just estimate at first, because you don't quite know, right? And just estimate, and then you say, okay, well, this is how much I think I spend. I might spend 300. And then that's the first step to do. Now I can go on to the second step, but I'll wait for you, because that's the next thing is then you track your habits.
Right. Well, and the other thing that I encourage people to do is, if you're not sure of the categories, just download a bank statement. You can see what you've spent money on. So then if for me, if Apple is something that's showing up every month, I need a category for, which is how I actually made my budget, because I never put Apple or apps or entertainment or electronics, was never in any budget I ever made at all, until I pulled a bank statement and realized you're paying for storage, you're paying for Apple Music, you're paying for all these different things. And I just didn't calculate. I think stars, it was like $4 or something like that. I did not have a category for like entertainment or electronics at all. And yet that was one of the main buckets that I was hemorrhaging money out of, but I wasn't aware of it. So the other thing I would encourage people to do is go print your bank statement out. And just look at it. I mean, just give it a glance, a once over. And then if you're missing categories, you're going to know immediately, oh man, I didn't put that down. I didn't put that down. I didn't put that down. You're going to get some of the categories.
Yes.
But that's helpful as a kind of a baseline, as a start, whether it's pen to paper, an app, a piece of paper you put up on a wall, a whiteboard where you can create the list and see it every day, whatever you need to do to write it down. So then what's the next step? You said tracking.
Yeah, so I was going to say, because that actually goes into the tracking. So that's actually a good point that you said, was look at your bank statement, because that's one of the things that we've done too. And I would say, look at the last month, because that'll give you more of a complete picture. And print that out and just highlight and pay attention to, oh, wow, am I spending like $500 on food? And I didn't even realize, I thought I was spending $350.
Right. For those of you that watch this, I want you guys to put hashtag bank statement if you actually download your bank, if you've ever even looked at your bank statement. People get them, they come in email, they come like who really reads them? Now, having said that, I do. I don't read them monthly. I actually am looking daily. So I'm scrolling through and I do kind of read them at the end of the month. I kind of want to like a running list of what has gone on in this past month. So I actually do. I don't read it when they send it. I read it in real time as I'm going along. But I would love to know who in the group actually reads their bank statements. Because I think we were talking earlier offline. We were like, remember we used to have those old school checkbooks and you used to write down all your stuff. and
Mhm.
and when I would be on my game, I would actually take that and reconcile it against my bank statement when I was on my game. I hated doing it, but I would do it. Now I just like actually look through the app, but I think it's important to review that because the bank statement is revealing. And if you have more than one bank that money is coming out of, I mean, I
Okay.
use different banks for different buckets of things because it keeps the separation of church and state. You don't spend this money for that if that account is only for that. You got to look at all of them. And I go into and it says check accounts daily, and I check them all because I want to make sure I know what's coming out of them. And I have shot myself in the foot about that. What else would you recommend about tracking your spending to make it easy? Because I know mentally there's a resist. I still resist it. Like looking at my cash, like if I wasn't for this, I have a checklist and I have an accountability partner, believe it or not. And we do checklist of healthy things. There's a bunch of things listed. That's one of the things. So I got to check that off every day. When I send her my screenshot, which keeps me engaged. That's one of my tips and tricks. But I know for a long time I resisted doing that. What can we do to like get out of that mindset where like, oh, it's just another thing? And I know a lot of you're a single mom, you've got a career, or you're rebuilding your career, or you're empty nesting and you're trying to figure out what to do with your life, or you've got other money goals or whatever. And people just like, I don't feel like doing this. How do you get past that hump to make it easy for yourself?
Well, that's a good question, and I would think that it depends on what is the person's ultimate goal with their money. If you're really serious and you have some goals that you want to achieve, if you just are tired, if you're tired of being broke or tired of a negative balance, or because something, uh, I forgot what it's called, but when you go negative in your account, something, I forgot what the word is. I'm sorry.
Overdrawn, you get
Yes, when you go overdrawn, thank you. Yes, when you get overdrawn, or you're just tired of being stressed out
Mhm.
and fretting over money. You're not sleeping well. You're stressed out. It comes out in in your family life. And that kind of stuff. If you're not motivated, then there's nothing really that is going to make it easy until you make the decision. You have to decide that this is what I want to do. And then, you can do tips and tricks to figure out, okay, well, I know if I have an accountability partner, that'll make it more fun. If I do it with someone that I trust, that I won't feel embarrassed. Because at the end of the day, and I know we had talked about this before, but I mean, now I think about it, really is true. It's like people get people get very embarrassed to share what's going on with them when it comes to their finances. But it's so funny that we can go to, and we don't want to talk to anybody about it. So it's really important to get the guidance that we need, because we all need coaches in so many areas of our lives.
Mhm.
But we're willing to go to a doctor and undress in front of a stranger.
Ooh, preach, girl.
Right. But we are afraid to bear our financial soul, So it just takes some humbling and a decision that says, hey, I want to do this. And then that the habits will come. It's going to take time.
Mhm.
Developing a budget, I say, is a living, breathing document. It consistently changes, especially as you change.
Yeah.
You start with small goals, small habits, and put things together so that way, as you grow, your your goals that you want become bigger,
Mhm.
because you've achieved those. If you put a goal in that, hey, I'm gonna, what my first goal is, I'm gonna save. I've never saved $200. I'm gonna save $200. I'm gonna save $500. And
Mhm.
what I'm gonna do is I'm going to commit. that every check I'm going to put away $20 or $50 or whatever you feel that is comfortable for you to start. And be patient with yourself. And I might be all over the place here, so please keep me on track, but
No,
be
you're perfect.
okay. So be patient with yourself, because um, there are going to be times when you dig into that money sometimes, So I remember when the first time I was trying to save $500 in my savings account. That was my first goal. Dave Ramsey has this really cool thing where he has baby steps, right? And the first baby step is save $500 if you're single, $1,000 if you're married, right? In your savings account. That is your first line of defense when it comes to savings and for emergencies, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I remember me saving $500, and man, it seemed like it took me forever to get to that $500. I was like, every time I stick 100 in, 50 gotta come out.
Yes, yes. I feel the same way. And I think I remember I remember Dave Ramsey baby steps, and I have loosely followed a combination of Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, and you guys, like, all, because the other thing I want to say is finances are very personal.
Yes.
I love what you said. You can, to even put not too fine a point on, you will get naked in front of a doctor who is a professional trained to see you naked and deal with your problem. As women, we'll get naked in front of a new sexual partner who is not trained in anything per se, right? But you will bare yourself and open yourself to a level of physical vulnerability. But we will not go to a financial planner and slide a spreadsheet over to have them look into our financial well-being because of shame around it. But you can do the other ones, like, oh, well, they're a doctor, I make excuses. Well, this is a guy I'm going to have this intimate relationship with. But you can't have an intimate relationship with your money, with your finance. Like, money is intimacy. It really is an intimacy, because it spotlights your values, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. If you're going out to eat Uber Eats, that's what you value right now, because that's where your money is going out the door, right? Those are your values. And some of our values are unconscious. We don't even know what they are, which is also why I think the bank statement is so revealing. It was so revealing to me, because it told me, like, you didn't know about this, you didn't know about this, but this is subconsciously how I was either coping or dealing or whatever. Those things. But it is really important, because money is very intimate, but you've got to become intimate with your money. If you have intimacy with your doctor, if you can have intimacy with your spouse or a new partner, and even at one time your spouse wasn't your spouse, he was a new partner, they weren't always there, you weren't always like this, now it seems like old hat, it's not a big deal, but at some point they were new. Or if, for those of you that are dating or engaged in dating, at some point you're going to get a new partner, you're going to have to be intimate with that person. If you can't be intimate with your finances, you need to think about how you can be intimate with a new partner, and not with a partner with respect to your money, which is just so important for your survival.
Yes.
And for your thriving, but I'll use my own thrival word there. There we go.
So I can add just quickly to that. When you were talking, it reminded me of something my stepfather had told me when I was young, eons ago. And you get these nuggets of wisdom and you have no idea what they're talking about, right?
Right.
But he said to me, and this is just like anything in your life, and I think I've even heard you talk about it in the various situations, is whatever you take care of will take care of you.
Absolutely.
So he always said to me, if you take care of your money, and he was talking about something as simple as making sure the dollars are in place, they're not folded, they're not thrown everywhere, you don't care, they're in your wallet, nice, where they belong. He said, how you take care of your money is how your money will take care of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's such a good little gem there. I told you, ladies, dropping gems. I told you, dropping gems. And I really think it's important when you're talking about savings, because you mentioned it before, this is the pay yourself first concept. So if you've been around in my group, I hashtag pay yourself first with everything. I personally think understanding or having that intimate relationship with your money is a form of self-care, and to not do so is a form of self-abuse. Money causes us stress, anxiety, worry. We're not at a point in our society where we don't need it, and so you can blow it off. So you need to take care of it so that it can take care of you. And part of the stress is, the truth is, you're not doing it. In the same way as, like, people will avoid going to the doctor because they don't want to get those test results back, because the test results are going to show high blood pressure, high cholesterol, because you need to be exercising, you need to be, changing your diet, but you're not doing it. And you don't want the test results because they will be revealing. It's the same story with money. But you really need to take care of yourself and pay yourself first. So how do you begin that journey financially? Because to your point, like, I can remember the Dave Ramsey, to go back to that. And I don't know when I started dating, he was saying $1,000. It might have changed with inflation, but I remember the number that I had in my head.
It's still there.
Really, I was like, I have to save $1,000. I felt like, to your point, oh my gosh. And I think I had it, lost it, had it again, lost it again. And it just took forever to get there. And I remember piecemealing it. Like, it might have been like $5. Then it was $10. Then I got like one of those, what do you call those, class action suit checks for like $7, and I would put my little $7.
Yes. For every bit counts.
Because I was just trying to get there. And at one point, I think when I crossed $500, then I began to try to get there faster, because somehow seeing the 500 was clicking for me. So how do we get to that point where we're like saving consistently? Like, what do we do to get ourselves there? Because that's a really, really challenging, like, this, to even start. And people will make up I don't even have $5. I don't have, what they'll say, whatever number, right, is. But how do I even start?
Whew, so there's a couple of things you have in there. To go back, I wanted to address when you said, when I saw $500, I was even more motivated to get to the $1,000. So one of the things that we learn is, when you see more, you can see more, right? So
really good, really,
good. So you can, you get, and then you become so motivated, so much more motivated, because then you've accomplished something, Yeah. So it's taking the patience with yourself to know, okay, in the beginning, it's like, okay, if you decide to do something new, like you want to exercise, right? And you've never exercised before, are you going to go into the gym and pick up 100-pound weight? You will not do that, right?
Of course.
But if somebody told you to go into the gym and first just go.
Right. Just go to the gym, show up.
Just show up.
Fist bump the clerk, and you can actually leave after that.
Right.
I just want you to show up, right?
Right. Yeah. Just show up, right? And then if you decide, okay, so I did it, then it's baby successes, and then, then you go in and you do 1 pound, right? And so doing your financial lifestyle is the same as exercising a muscle. It is a muscle that we have to learn to grow, right? So to go on to your next statement, the easiest way to start, after you've committed that this is something that I want to do, what I usually say is, figure out a way where you can set some money aside and forget about it, right? Where it's automatically coming out of your account, and it's going into, it could be in a money market account, it could be in a municipal, it could be any savings that maybe has I'm not going to get into all the specifics of that, but like a lower yield, and so it's not as volatile, because you need it for emergency purposes, but you're just trying to get your savings muscle developed, right? So I always love that commercial, the set it and forget it.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the ways that you can get started. Another way is, oh gosh, there's so many different things that people can do. Like my mind is going anyway.
Right. Right.
Right. But one of the things is like, if you go out and you spend cash, right? The change in your wallet, you can put that money in a jar,
Mhm.
right? That's not giving you any interest, but it's starting your saving muscle, right?
Right.
I actually did that, and I actually did it with my daughter, where all the change I gave it to her to put in her piggy bank, and then that money we roll up in the coins, and then we deposit it into her account.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's just a number of things you can do there. Another thing that some of the savings accounts have, where with your checking and your savings with the bank, is that when you spend, a portion of it goes, like the difference, they round it up and it goes to your savings account.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of different ways that you can get started, and then just the good old fashioned, when I have some extra money, throw it to the side. I got $5.
Right. Right. Right.
Transfer that right over into the savings account. And you can even put it into accounts that, like, so if you put it in like some kind of a money market account or whatever, where you have access to it, but it's not as easily accessible.
Yes. Yes.
And so that way you can kind of, if you have, that you're going to go in and touch it.
Right.
It's not there, so you can just transfer it over to your account or go take it out the debit, the cash machine.
All really, really good ideas. I think I don't think I've done the change thing very well. Well, let me rethink that. I think I do. So I have a money bucket. Uh, all right. So I didn't realize it until just this second. I have a money bucket. So I'm one of those people, for those people, like I'm one of those woo-woo people. I feng shuied my bedroom. And in
Okay.
feng shui, there's a prosperity corner. And they tell you put money in the prosperity corner. So I had whatever change from whatever. And then I collected coins from like Europe or whatever, but they're like real coins. So I was putting those in the prosperity bucket. And then I noticed that I don't carry a wallet. I carry what do you call those? The RFI clip, which has my cards. So I don't have space for change. So whenever I get change, I started like dropping it in the money bucket, like a wish. And so now I realize that what I do is when I get change, which is very rare because I don't really use cash, I use my card. So it's rare that I get change. I drop it in the money bucket that's in my corner. So it's a slow burn. There's not, it's very slow. There's some dollars in there too, because I don't carry cash. So I might have a couple of dollars. I'm like, why do I have this in my jacket? And I'll drop the $2 in the money bucket. So yeah, I know somebody that did those big water jars. He puts money in the water jar. She actually counts that money. Actually, I'm blown away. She goes, yeah, and I make lines so that I know that at a certain line how much I had, and then I'll count as I'm like, you're better than me. I would just put the money in the bucket and eventually I just wouldn't do it. I have no idea. My money bucket is like a yellow beach pail. I have no idea what's in it.
That's right.
It's not full yet, and I don't care. I'll do it when it gets full, but it's a little that I do set it and forget it. And I use my bank, but I have money going to other places so that I can't get to it easily. Because if I can get to it easily, it's going to be toast.
Yes.
That's actually how I got to that $1,000. Is I opened another bank account, and then I had that money automatically transferred, or else it never would have happened. So I definitely use set it and forget it.
Another thing that you can do if you don't have is that when you get paid, if you have with your unless you're self-employed, you can have where part of your check automatically goes to a separate bank account, and you can actually make that bank account difficult. So I was talking about things like a money market account or that kind of stuff, but and that's the same thing, because it's difficult to get to, but is, it helps with the out of sight, out of mind. But if you just want to do like with a bank, you can actually do it where you can open up an account where you have to go in and sign for that money.
Ah,
So you
there's
can't
another
just,
fly in the ointment there. Yeah.
so you just can't get it, and if you have that kind of account, don't ask for any kind of cards attached to it.
Yes, yes, yeah. And because it will make you think twice about taking that money. I got to go to the bank. I got to sign something. I got to really be desperate for this money in order for it to do it. Most companies have direct deposit. Most companies allow for direct deposit to multiple accounts.
Yep.
So if you can actually have it go into an account before it even hits your regular account, that's actually ultimately the ideal. It's good also to keep it sometimes in a separate bank account, only because it just is less tempting. A lot of accounts have adjoining savings, but you can transfer that money on your phone. If you've got an entirely different account at a entirely different bank, which has no card to it, you got to think real hard about getting into doing it. And even if, I would say to people, start where you are. Wherever you are is perfect.
Yes.
If it's a quarter over time still appreciates, still earns interest. One day you'll look up and you can do 50 cents. Another day you'll look up, you can do $1. Another day, 5, another day, 10, and it'll just snowball. When you were a kid, all you had was quarters, right? Or dollars. That's where you started. If you were a kid that did that, everybody's got to start somewhere. It's not where you start, it's where you finish.
That's
so
right.
Part of it is like, don't once you commitment, decision and commitment trumps ego. If your ego is going, oh, I'm so embarrassed and all that, if you decide and get committed, it'll shut your ego down, because you'll be telling, look, I don't really care what you think. I'm putting this 25 cents in here and I'm moving on. I'm gonna keep it pushing, right? Because your ego is not involved. But if you haven't decided, if you're waffling, if you're afraid of what people think, if you're all in it, you haven't really made the decision, it's going to be really hard, because it'll be easy to backpedal because you haven't really decided, I'm saving this $500 by X date or time or whatever. And, no excuses. I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
And then to add on to that, is put a goal to it. I know we're throwing out numbers, but we didn't necessarily say a goal. Put a goal to it. Dave Ramsey says 500 if you're single, 1,000 if you're married. If that seems a little too steep or too much to take in, and it is 100, let's start there. If it's 50, let's start there, because it's all about the little successes.
Exactly.
That we had to get to the big success.
Exactly. Tiny habits. You make them doable so that they're no brainer. You save whatever the smallest increment amount that feels like, yep, this is a little bit of a stretch, but I could do it. And if that's a quarter, then that's a quarter for you. If it's $5, then it's $5 for you. Do not get into compare and contrast either, because then you'll be like, well, my friend saves $500 a month and all I'm saving is, who cares? You don't know what she had to do or where she's been to get to that $500 road. She could have been bankrupt 3 times and had 300,000. I've heard some horror stories, people. I have never been there. And these people are doing all kinds of crazy things. But the price of that was they were so much further back behind where I was. I got no complaints about starting where I am. And their stories are more inspirational because I know I'll get there, because I didn't start at $300,000 in debt. Right? They did. And so good for them that they took a quantum leap and did all that. But where they started was $300,000 in debt, or 20,000. I think somebody told me that they were $200,000 in debt when they did their story. And their story ends up, they own their own business and became a millionaire, and they did it in 3 years once they kind of got a hold. But most people, you get a hold of the basics of like taking charge of your finances, like being in action about it. So savings, people, pay yourself first.
Yes, pay yourself first. There's the other thing is we could go all day with this. I'm sorry, but
no, we could.
Yeah. I did want to say there's other ways to do things to kind of accelerate it, which is if you want to pick up extra work,
Yes.
You know, people are doing things where you're making money on the side. You can sell items. I mean, if you're not like me, because I'm not a shopper, so you don't want anything in mine, because I keep it forever. Right?
Right.
But if you know, if you have things that you can sell, you know, that helps to accelerate your plan as well. So there's more than one way to skin a cat, is what my mother always says. And the last thing I wanted to say was, sometimes we feel like we don't have the money in our cash flow plan, and we're saying, oh, I don't have $5, I don't have $1. But think about, when's the last time you went to a fast food and got French fries or a burger or whatever, there, you know, and you spent $5 or $7? I want people to think, the next time you find yourself spending $5, $7, or you get a $10 pizza, think that could be the money that I could put away in my savings.
That is a good point. And I want to dovetail and circle that back to looking at your statement. So here's what I found: I was subscribed to things I no longer use. So as soon as I unsubscribed, I repurposed that money to savings, or I repurposed that money to debt, or I repurposed that money into my business. So it wasn't that I didn't have the money. The purpose of that money was going towards something that I didn't value. A lot of times, to your point, we have the money, but we have assigned that money to the wrong things and we're not even aware of it. And that to me is like the value. That's why I read my statement all the time, because I'm always like, what is that? Why is that there? And they're tiny charges, but $2.99, $3.99, $5.99, $29.99 adds up. I mean, I probably just tossed out probably close to $50 just now with what I said. That $50 could be my new savings money. And that was all in one bank statement in 1 month. I could be depositing $50. $50 times 12 is $600 in a year. Compounded over multiple years, you're going to be looking at a big number at a certain point if you keep letting that snowball. And it's only $50.
Right.
$50 of services I'm not even using that I was paying for. The other thing, I love lattes, people. There's even a book called The Latte Factor where they talk about that. And I'm not saying use a latte. It wasn't, the latte factor is not a get rich quick. You're not going to become a millionaire by giving up your latte. But what I did discover is that now every time I go to buy a latte, it is few and far between, because I got stuff in my kitchen to make a latte. I like my lattes a lot better, and I save my $7. Another way to save is every time you don't spend that money, deposit that money.
Right.
And that might be a good start. Because if you keep thinking you don't have any money, sometimes I'll do that. I'll go and say, well, I could have done something. I'm like, no. And you know what? Since I didn't do it, I'm going to just transfer that money into my savings, because I would have spent $7 on a latte happily, easily, and enjoyed it. But when I don't do something, I go, yeah, that's something that I can repurpose to something else.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of ways you can get creative from the feminine way. You don't have to grind yourself into depravity to save. You can look for creative, enjoyable ways to make it fun. So one of my enjoyable ways, you guys, I love stuff. I have my little cha-ching button. I do that one and I do this one. That was easy, right? So a lot of times when I do stuff, I just to reaffirm, cha-ching, and I do stuff with my daughter like that. Oh, I just got a check, and we do it, and then I'm depositing it in my savings. Or you just made extra money.
That was easy.
Right? You do stuff to affirm it. So it's not so cold-hearted and fun. It's not all about the spreadsheet. It's about doing it in ways that resonate and feel good for you. And that's a really important thing.
I like that. And one of the things we say too is, get your family involved. If you have kids, like you were saying, I mean, kids will keep you on track, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And if they know, hey, we're trying to save, we want to save, our goal is we want to save $500, so every time, we save some money, we, cha-ching or high five or do something where, they're going to be asking, did we, ask or tell them, ask me every Friday, How
Right.
we looking, you know, that kind of stuff. So there's so many different ways. But going back to your very first question, to as far as the cash flow plan is, that is the one of the main reasons to write it down, to all that, is because it allows you not only to put your goals in, but it allows you to get creative, and it allows you to just reshuffle the deck, because
Yes.
that's all that financial planners do, is we just help you reshuffle the deck so it better aligns with your goals, and it better aligns with where you want to be and what you want to get out of.
And so you make a really good point, because that's all businessmen do. When you see people on TV wheeling and dealing and shuffling, they're all reshuffling the deck. They're going, take these assets and invest them here, take this thing and sell this here. So we have more cash flow to put into this asset so we can drive this product, this service, this, any, that's all they're doing. That's all they're ever doing. And they pay people, CFOs, very well to look at all of it on a spreadsheet and to say, move this here at this time, sell this here at this time, save this money because you need to make payroll and we need a cushion for the next 6 months, or the market's going to take a downturn or whatever. There's somebody sitting behind all these companies really looking at a company's cash flow plan and making these decisions just with more zeros behind it. It's not rocket science per se. There is a science to it, no doubt. It does take some skill, but there's an art to it too, which anybody can really get good at with practice. It just takes practice. So you got to be in it to win it. So we've talked about cash flow. We've talked about having a cash flow plan, a savings plan or savings goal, because you got to figure out where you're going to get this money to save. What's the goal going to be? How are you going to do it? And making it fun. I want to talk about debt as our final thing, because I think if you do not have a debt repayment plan or get out of debt soon or free or however you want to say it, if you don't have a debt management plan, you're going to stay in debt. And that's the other thing that I realized for myself is after a while, I did a lot with budget and savings, but I just kind of put the debt in the budget. I didn't actually have a conscious plan about ridding myself of it like forever. And it wasn't until I had a debt management plan that was a part of the whole cash flow thing that it actually started to like dissipate and go away. How important is, I mean, that was my experience, but how important is, and that was, based on chatting with you and your husband and my own research, but how important is debt management plan? I know a lot of people like to wing that too. Well, I put the credit card payments in there, I'm good.
Uh, it's I don't know if you've ever heard this saying, but it's in the Bible. It says the borrower is servant to the lender.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So it is extremely important. It's like if you're trying to save and you're trying to budget, but you have a weight around your ankle
yes.
slowing you down.
Mhm.
So getting out of debt is extremely important. It allows you to reduce your stressors,
Yes.
and it frees up money that you didn't have before that you can now put towards your savings to accelerate your savings.
Mhm.
Just speaking at it at a high level,
Mhm.
and also every part of your financial experience builds on one another.
Yes.
So there's the budget, the cash flow plan is not just an island unto itself. You
Mhm.
know, there are layers, and it's like building a house. And it's difficult to build a roof and you don't have the foundation. And getting out of debt is part of that building of your house and setting your foundation a little bit more sturdy as you develop your savings plan.
Now I know for some people they'll say, and I know I felt this way at different points. It's hard. I feel like I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like and especially credit card debt is the evil, albatross. I've learned something about I learned something about credit card debt that I actually want to share because I think it's important. Credit card debt is unsecured debt. So the interest rate is significantly higher because with a credit card, they're not going to come and take your house, your car, your moped, whatever, versus a mortgage, which you can get a better interest rate on, or a car loan in some cases, depending on your credit, because they can take the car. they can take the house and recoup some of their money. So credit cards, unless you're in that 700, or I think it's said 750 score, you don't really start to get good rates until you get like really like lower rates because it's unsecured debt. So you're paying a premium for the privilege of putting your Uber Eats of $15 to the tune of 24% interest on a credit card, at which point you're probably paying $25 to $30 if you let that roll over every month. So almost double the money for the privilege of putting it on a credit card. And I'm using that as a very simple example. I think that's important to know because what we think is the cash flow, what we've done is, what I've done, many of us do, is put the cash flow, we make it so tight, there's no flow. And so what I do is I want a treat, I want a something, and I'm so sick and tired of not having anything left over. So I put on my credit card. After I've paid that $22 minimum payment that did nothing for the balance, by the way, because my interest rate is higher than the $21 I paid. I remember that was another thing. Looking at these bank accounts includes looking at my credit cards, and I would be like, what is this 75, 90, whatever dollar charge? And it was the interest I was being charged on it every time. I'm like, oh no, we cannot have this. But I wasn't present to the cost of using someone else's money to me personally. And that's what you're paying for. So I share all that to say, like, talk about the cash flow and the debt management plan. Like, you're right, they're pillars on each other, but people make them so tight that there's no room. And then the credit card is the escape hatch. Yes. And you can't really get out of debt if you're constantly jumping in the escape pod every weekend. And then you're trying to put that in your cash flow plan, and it doesn't seem to work out. So how do we get out of that? Everybody's in that cycle, that robbing Peter to pay Paul. I pay minimum payment, I spend more than minimum payment. I pay minimum payment, I spend more than minimum payment, and you don't get out of that cycle of debt.
So there's a couple of pieces to that. So first, you had mentioned, and this is just specific to the one thing that you brought up, was we make things so tight that we don't allow ourselves enough flexibility for treats. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I would say is, well, then it needs to be in your cash flow plan. Mm-hmm. Right? And then you have to be disciplined to stick to that dollar amount. Right. Yes. So it's like, okay, well, I want to treat myself. So I'm going to spend $50 or $75 or whatever. Right. And you stay within that. So that way that helps to curb the challenge of I have to use my credit card. Right. Mm-hmm. So the thing is that it's a vicious cycle if you are saving, but then you're counteracting it with putting debt up. So it's like I saved $50, but I just did $50 on my credit card, right? So now I'm negating myself. Now I'm not
actually even negating yourself more, because I saved $50 at an interest rate of what, 0.5? Right. I just spent $50 at an interest rate of 24.99%.
Exactly. Yes. Now you're upside down.
Oh, I owe this much back. So I'm actually losing money on the deal every time I hit the credit card instead of just paying cash, Right. It's such a good point.
So there's a couple of things that you can do to get out of debt. One is a bit radical. People may have probably heard it before, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Right. So one of the things that we recommend is if you really want to get out of debt. Okay. Now,
you're really committed.
Right. You got to be committed, right? Is to cut up all your credit cards except for one, mm-hmm. for emergency purposes. And that one credit card, and this is after you built up your savings, right? So like I said, one is a layer to the other. So you have to have at least something. So, because things happen, right? So that's why people use their credit cards, because I don't have enough money saved, right? But if you hit that $500 or that $1,000 mark and you need tires, you don't need to go to the credit card, because you can use the money out of your savings, right? So that's one of the things is that once you get your savings, then you want to look at getting out of debt, right? Once you do your cash flow, then you have your savings and you put yourself first in your cash flow plan, and you kind of get an idea of your habits, and they will continue to evolve as you evolve, right? And don't make it so tight where you feel like you can't breathe, right? The robbing to Peter to pay Paul, that right there, to me, can be adjusted with your cash flow plan. Yes. Because that's when you start reshuffling and repurposing to figure out, okay, oh, I didn't even realize that I was spending an extra $100 in my entertainment, where that can go to help Peter, and I don't have to rob somebody to take care of him. Right. And then once you get that done, you want to start looking at let's figure out how to get out of debt. Let's get serious with this. I got a little cushion. I got me a cash flow plan. I'm ready to cut up my cards, except for one. And then if you're not disciplined with that one, put it in a container with some water and freeze it. Yep. And stick it back there. You don't have to be tempted. Now, there's a whole lot you can say about when it comes to understanding your credit, how credit works, depending on your situation. I know some people are like, well, I'm trying to buy a house and this kind of, those are different circumstances that you would need to understand how to work your credit to be able to do those things. But if your goal is to simply get out of debt, that's one of the first steps that you can do once you get your cash flow plan and your first line of savings underway. And then that's when you want to start using things like a cash envelope system, where and that's part of your cash flow plan, really. I mean, it really is the crux of your house, right? It's the cornerstone. So I know you have heard of the cash envelopes.
I did. And so when I first started my money journey, I actually went on Amazon and bought colorful cash flow things, and I went to a cash basis, because part of my mental training was, you use your cards and you don't check your account. You're not present to what you're spending, when you're spending, and how much you're spending. So in order to get me versed in following the cash flow plan, I put the money in the envelopes, and I'm like, what is that you're going to do? Because when the envelope is empty, there's nothing else to be had. You're done. Like, this is done. And that was the first tool, I think, that I used to kind of just drive sticking to the cash. Because I as long as the card is just, you're on autopilot with those cards. Yes. So for me, that was the first tool that I used, just to presence me to how much money I was spending. And I'll be honest, it was relieving. And I'll tell you why, because the only thing that was coming out of that bank account was money for my expenses. And I knew they were taken care of, and they were on bill payer. So I knew that whatever cash was in whatever envelope, I could spend it on whatever. And I like to spend money. So it felt good.
Right.
And I spent it guilt-free, because I knew I didn't have to worry about, that doesn't mean I didn't check my account. I did, because I was watching for those expenses to come out. But I felt so relieved, because I knew nothing else was coming out except for what I had allotted to the bank account, because I had taken out all the money. So I wasn't nickel and diming myself at the grocery store. Oh, I feel like a latte. Oh, I feel like I'm going to go get, let's forget, I would go even to the grocery store. We didn't do takeout a lot, but I might go to the grocery store and like, let's get a frozen pizza. Because that was like, I'm not going to spend money on pizza delivery, but I'll go buy like a DiGiorno, right? So it was the same thing. So, but I was like, well, if you only got $75 or whatever left for groceries for this week before your next infusion of grocery money comes. So think twice about that, because you got to do, regular food shopping, on Tuesday or whatever the day was, and you don't
Yes.
blow through your money just because you feel like having a pizza for a snack or junk food night when you had already planned to do cook dinner for junk food night, and same thing.
Right.
So it drove the point home.
Yes.
I needed that. Now everybody may not needed that, but I needed that because it was really helpful in the beginning.
Right. I find that because I did it as well,
Yeah.
and I think we're pretty good with it. And to be very honest, when I get off track, if I find that, okay, we've been a little loosey-goosey more than what, I go right back to it.
Yeah.
I go right back to it. And I'm like, okay, we going back to cash or, structure, because the thing is, and I like that you brought this up because it is very important. It's like, I have my account, and this is the account where I keep the money for my expenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
We did the cash flow plan to figure out how to pay everyone that we can, right? And now this is the beginning of trying to come up with a good debt elimination plan, right?
Yeah.
That's the foundation of that. So to not mess up that plan, we now have a separate set of money for the miscellaneous.
Yeah.
And that is, so if you don't want to use the cash and you just use card, use a separate account.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I know that my expenses, my food, my gas, my entertainment, all that comes out of here, right? And this is all the money I have until, like you said, my next infusion.
Right.
And that'll help. So that way too many times we have everything in the one account.
Bucket, right. And it makes it hard to track. And I know that as I graduated from the envelope system, because again, like I said, I put all my cash in the thing. I just put different buckets in different accounts so that I can track. I have the house one and the expenses one and the whatever one. You do all your different buckets, but now they're all in different bank accounts and buckets, so I still can see or use it for the same purpose. So I didn't have to do the envelope. Now some things I do, I have my emergency money, like I tell my daughter, keep that emergency 20. And as you get older, it might be an emergency 100, because you never know where you're going to be, where you're going to need cash. Like, keep that. But for the most part, I use my card, but that's because the cards are tied to the buckets that I know that I can use for different things. Some cards never leave the house because they're not buckets that I should ever be spending money out of. And then other cards are with me all the time because that's the grocery bucket or the gas, that's the house bucket, which is gas, groceries, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I hear you. It makes so much sense, and it makes it easier for you to manage, and then what should be coming out. The other thing that helps too is when you're looking at a statement and you see something weird, it stands out as weird really quickly, because why is this bill coming out of the grocery money? What happened? Where did I go wrong? Did I overspend, underspend? Did I give them the wrong card? Did somebody use my card incorrectly? Did something get stolen? What happened? Because this money should not be coming out of this account, and I don't even know what this is. So then charges get flagged really quickly because it's not in the right place. You get to see it really quickly, which makes it easier to read your statement. So yeah, definitely. So I hear you on the debt. Like, that's super duper important. We got to have you back to talk about credit and what goes into that FICO score and mortgages, because I know that needs to be demystified. And so many people, to your point, it's a layered approach. And for some people, they are robbing Peter to pay Paul because they haven't put those foundational pieces in, and they're still trying to pay these credit cards. They don't have savings. They haven't looked at their cash flow. And so they are doing the one step forward, three steps back dance. And that is just so very, very frustrating. So what would you say are if you were to give people one big thing to do in each category for your cash flow plan, your savings plan, and your debt, something actionable that they could take away from today and do today? Like, if they started nowhere else, they could do these three things and get started.
Okay. Well, if you don't have a cash flow plan, I think the first thing that you could do is, and I like the idea that you said is, go to your bank account, pull your statements, and take a look at what you've been spending your money on. I advise look at the last 30 days, a whole month, so you can get a good idea, because a lot of times we get paid 2 times or one every week, right? And then take a look at it, and then try your hand at writing everything out. Add it all up, and you'll be surprised at, okay, well, you put one section for your mortgage, and this is how much I've been spending on gas, and this is how much I've been spending on food. And I remember when I first did that, and I was so floored about how much money I spent out on food when I did it. I was like, okay, the money that I'm spending, I really have no excuse not to save, you know?
Yeah. Food is a big one. And I told you for mine, it was all that electronic tech apps,
Yes.
subscriptions to stuff that I don't even remember signing up for. But
Yes.
we all get that 7-day free trial, and they count on you forgetting about it until 6 months later, and it's something you've never used. That was the one that really blew me away. And
Yeah.
the fact that of course, I accounted for my, mortgage and groceries and all that. I never accounted for that electronic stuff. It was like, I don't know why, I just didn't think of it as a category.
Yeah. And
And I
those
was
are big.
spending chunks of money on it every month.
Yeah. And those are big drainers where it's, every dollar counts.
Yes.
And so if you're going to waste a dollar, then intentionally
Waste
you waste a dollar. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point, and we don't use that. And then the next step would be is start, if you do have those drainers, then you can start closing them out, because now you have an instant boost to where you can start putting some money even before you write everything out and start shuffling the deck to figure out where money could go. So that's for the cash flow. If you have one and it's working well for you, and your next step is, okay, well, I don't even know where to begin with my savings. I don't really, I want to get started, or I want to accelerate it. The first thing I would say is, where are you saving the money? And I would open up a separate account where you don't have access to transfer that money easily over to your everyday account that you live out of. And what I would do is, I would, if you can, something super easy is find out through your company if you can have money automatically put into that account. If you don't have that, you can work with a financial planner or someone like that who can set up a separate account for you, where they can automatically take it out of your checking or your savings every month or every however often, and then they can put it into an account that of course will have access to, but it's just, you will have to wait 3 days to get the money, which allows you to say, do I really need this money right now? And that can also force your hand on making sure you say, on making sure everybody says yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I would also add, for savings, I actually, most banks, at least the bank I bank with, I think a couple of them do this. I set up auto transfers between my bank accounts. Nowadays, you can do that. Not everyone does them, but the banks that I bank with do. So my savings account actually claws money from my checking account, so I don't even have to use my employer, and it takes some time to do it. I can also push money to that account, or I push money from my main account to other buckets that are different banks. You can actually set that up. So, whether you use your employer, whether you use the bank, whether you use a financial planner, you really want to get into set it and forget it mode, because the faster you do that, the easier it's going to be. You don't miss $5 if it's already gone by the time you get paid.
Right.
Often
Now,
if
if
you
you
got
can,
to take $5 out, you're like, oh, I need this $5.
right. Now, if you can do it where it can automatically do it, because I do know, like USAA, like you were saying,
Mhm.
for example, is is an example of a bank who has that, where they can tie that bank account to another bank account, and so you can just transfer that money, which I've done it all. I've done that too, right? You can transfer it over to their savings account or checking, whichever one that you have with it. The biggest thing is just figuring out what you need. If you think the set it and forget it is the best way to do it, then do it that way. If you feel like I can transfer it manually, then do that. But understand that, that takes discipline to be able to do, because you can just as easily don't do it.
Yep. I had somebody that used the envelope system. It was a guy. He said he did a 52 weeks. He had 52 envelopes and he had to put a certain dollar amount in each envelope. Now he did that again. For a lot of people, it's the discipline of doing it. It isn't like I'm just trying to, it's, I need to get in the habit. And if I don't physically do it, set it and forget it is hard for me. Or going into the banker's office. So what I'm going to do is, he just did it. And then at the end of the year, he felt good about putting in a big chunk of money. Now, I'm happy to go along with that if that's what it takes. At the same time, I'm always like, yeah, but I'm losing interest. I'm really a fan. I'm a huge fan of, taking care of my money so my money takes care of me. And I always like to keep it in an institution, even if the interest is nominal. Or even at Dow days, I know some savings accounts, I was like, the interest on this is dismal. Like it's like almost non-existent, but some interest is better than no interest. Even if that interest is 10 cents, that's 10 cents more that I have that I didn't have to put in there. And it's 10 cents more towards my goal. So, do what you can do to get your money in the right frame for savings, whatever that takes, and if that's the envelope system initially, I say go for it.
Yeah, the envelope system is no joke. It'll tell you your spending habits real quick.
Immediately.
Yeah. You will run out of money. I don't care.
Can I tell you? I cannot tell you how many times I went in and I held that envelope up. And
yes.
Nothing.
Yes.
And I
yes,
had, and even better, what I used to do is I didn't, you can write on some of the envelope. First of all, I went to Amazon and got colorful envelopes. So my envelopes were color coded. I knew what every color had a task, but I stuck every receipt in it that I spent the money on. So when the money was gone, I could pull out the receipts and I would see in real time, like, oh, like, so I knew what I spent them without having to go to my bank account. I knew exactly where all those dollars went. So, yeah. And so your third recommendation for debt.
Yes, the get out of debt plan. So if you have the cash flow plan and you have some kind of a savings cushion, like 500 to 1,000 saved to the side at minimum, that you have access to fairly easy, then you want to start looking at putting a plan together based off of your cash flow plan of a get out of debt plan. So here is where it's kind of specialized, depending on what your goal is. And so there's so many ways to do it. So the first thing I would do is I would sit down and I would see in my cash flow plan, is there any extra any extra money that I am paying towards my credit cards or anything like that I can combine. So I don't want to open up because I know we're starting to go a little over, but sometimes what we do is we feel like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay an extra $10 to my credit cards. And I will put $10 on this one, $10 on this one, $10 on this one. And so what works better is if you take all that extra money, that 10, 10, and 10, which would be $30, and you start putting it on the one, and then you concentrate on one debt at a time. So that way, that extra money is going to pay down one debt faster. And then there's a system to that, which people may have heard, like snowballing, where you want to pay the lowest balance first and then work your way up, and then as things get paid off, you can take that money and pay that off. But that would be the first thing that I would do when it comes to the debt is look at what you're paying, see if there's any extra money, and then allot that as I call it good, which is get out of debt money, right?
Yeah.
And that is the money that is allotted to help you get out of debt.
Right. That's awesome. Great tip. So, how would people go about connecting with you? Because this is one thing that I know, this is personal, it's intimate. Some of the strategies we talk, we're aligned, it work for us, but they may not work for everybody. And everybody should have their own personal financial plan, because that's the way you're going to stick to it. That's the way it's going to work for you. So how would people work with you to do that? Or do you have any way that people can connect with you?
Yeah, so like you said, and I think that was really good. Your financial plan is like your thumbprint. It's like your fingerprint. Everyone is different depending on your situation, habits, and your goals. So sitting down to just hash it out and figure it out. People can reach me on my cell phone. If they want to reach out to me, should I just give it out?
I'll put it in the notes for people, or do you want to give them an email address? How would you prefer that they get in touch with you?
I'm okay.
They can direct message you as well on Facebook, however you want to. What will you tell us?
Okay, well, I'm fine with my cell phone. It's fine with sending text message, so we can put that information out, which is fine. And just if they could just put that they were in witness the money seminar, the makeover seminar, so that way we understand where you're coming from. A free consult is what we're offering, and if we're able to help anyone. We do have Amazon gift cards that we give to say thank you, for us being able to help you in your goals.
So people, what she wants you to do is I'm going to put her number in the show, in the comments, in the for this event. You're going to text money moves that you went to the money moves with Coach Ivy webinar, and then she will respond to you. You get a free consult with her. I can tell you personally, because I've worked with her, it is one of the best and easiest things. I've been with people that make you feel smarmy, like, why not? Why haven't you done this? Oh, you should have done this. Oh, you leave kind of feeling like bad Ivy. There was none of that. Wherever you are, they make you feel welcome. They just want you to get started. They're committed to having people reach their financial goals. It doesn't matter what you've done or haven't done. The commitment is there to get you to where you want to be. So it is, I promise you, it on their end, it's painless. Now, that doesn't mean it might not be a little revealing for us, because, you do have that moment where you're like, wow, I didn't really ever look at it. But the way they do it is from a very holistic, supportive place. And I promise you, if you do it, you will not regret it. So text her, she'll send you, she'll reach back out to you. And then certainly if after the consult you end up working together, they have a $25 Amazon gift card as a welcome gift for being one of their newest clients. So again, Tosh, as always, it's a pleasure. We could talk on and on, which we always do. We both love the topic. I am also committed to women reaching their financial goals, starting from wherever they are. It's why I kind of speak a lot on the starter steps, because a lot of women they don't have the basics in place. And we all keep talking about, I want to get my bag up. I want to do this. But I also put one of my big mistakes is that people think more money is going to solve their problem. And I tell them, if you're out of control with $10, you're going to be way out of control with 10,000. You're the constant, the common denominator. And so when you have these foundational pieces in place, trust me, your money multiplies faster, and it happens faster because you are in the mode. You have the momentum, you have the knowledge, you have the discipline of beginning of the beginnings of making your money work for you. And you don't have it now. If you're in these kind of worlds where you've got all this other stuff going on, you don't have it. And so what happens is you kind of like, why am I here again? I could have sworn I did this last year. And I've been there too. I've been like, why am I on this treadmill that I can't get off of? But when you get past a certain point and you've got those foundational pieces, you really knock it out of the park. And your money, you want to talk about snowballing, your money begins to snowball. Your opportunities begin to snowball. Your prosperity begins to snowball. Luck is a function of preparedness meeting opportunity. And most people don't get lucky because they're not prepared to take the opportunity. Don't let that happen to you. Give Tasha a call. Let her help you be prepared for any opportunity that comes your way. And then you're the queen sitting in the driver's seat going, yes or no. And that's a far better place to be in than I can't because I don't have the money, or I'm in too much debt, or I'm still working to pay off this. You want to be in the driver's seat. And queens don't get princessy about it. They just get it done. So they don't. Princesses whine about what they can and can't and why am I here again? A queen is like, I'm handling my business. So like a boss, because that's what we queens do. So thank you again, Tosh. I so appreciate having you here tonight. Thank you, ladies. Definitely reach out to her. I promise you will not regret it. And I need to have you back. We will get you back just to talk about credit, lending, borrowing, credit score. You can demystify all of that for us too. We'll have that. We'll do that on our next go round. So thank you again. And I will see you ladies around the group. Have a great evening.
And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.